Well, welcome everybody to our online program on addiction and recovery from the Sunshine Coast Health Center up here in Powell River, British Columbia. And we've been talking about this large research project that we've just completed. And one of the interesting things that came out of the project was the belief from 100% of our participants that they thought their drug use was a conscious choice. Now, they had heard about the disease model. They knew about, we're powerless over drugs. They'd heard about all that, but they really didn't believe that. They were quite adamant that drug use was a conscious choice, and even though they really couldn't explain what was going on. And one of the interesting things that we found when we did the analysis is that in 100% of the cases, the participants had a very weak sense of who they were as a human being. Okay? And this is interesting. They really didn't reflect very much on their lives. They couldn't just bang out. If we said, what's important to you? They couldn't just rhyme it off, all these things that were important to them. If we asked them how they were feeling, they'd have to slow down and, well, geez, I'm feeling sort of guilty or I'm feeling kind of anxious. But they would actually have to think about it, to really pay attention, to put words to it. Now, this is quite interesting. That they really, if you ask them the question, who are you, they really couldn't give you a good idea. Now, we thought initially that maybe they would tell us, I'm a plumber, or I'm a carpenter, maybe associate themselves with a job, but they didn't do that. It's really quite interesting. And this idea of having a weak sense of self, what seemed to be going on with them was that if I don't know who I am as a person, if I haven't really thought very much about my life, well, how do I know what to do? And one of the things we noticed is all of them appeal to the outside world. And so they look to the outside world to organize them, to sort of give them purpose. So, for example, they'd be okay if they were going to work during the day, because then work provides a structure to them. But on the weekends, it's, oh, geez, the floodgates let loose. Or the very common thing we hear, if there's nothing going on, I'm bored. It's like they couldn't rely on themselves to keep themselves entertained or occupied. And this was just so common with 100% of the participants. So this is really quite an interesting thing. And then when we talked about the drug use, this is actually some things the guys told us, that actually it was the act of using that gave purpose to my life. It actually organized their lives for them. But even beyond that, it was, they told us, 100% of people told us, this was sort of a time for myself. I mean, I'm so occupied with the outside world and all these demands from my boss, from my family, from my friends. I mean, I'm running around doing everything for anyone else. And when I use drugs, this is a time I can relax. This is a time for me. And this was an interesting discovery we made in the analysis. And when we talked with all the participants quite a bit about this idea that, was this the time for you? Was this when you could sort of relax, get rid of all the clutter out of your head, all the demands that would be made on you from work or whatever was going on, that this was just you in your time? And we pursued that, and that's actually, it turns out, they were in complete agreement with that. That was actually what it was. And maybe this explains part of this belief they had, that it was a conscious choice. This was the time they were making for themselves. And by the way, got mightily irritated if that time that they had organized for the drug use got interrupted in any way. But it was this idea then that I give myself out to everybody. To my boss, and he phones me up on the weekend, wants me to work. I really don't want to, but I go in to keep my peace, because that's what I'm supposed to do as a good employee. All this. And making boundaries, being assertive, really wasn't even part of what they did, except in the drug use, right? This is the one time where they were actually paying attention to themselves. So that's kind of interesting. Anyway, we'll be back next time with the last in our series on our research project.